And we're here tonight with some of the executive committee. Amy Morris, secretary, Tracy Glowacki, second vice chair. I'm Andrea Bearwald, the first vice chair, and Cindy Gatewood is our social media director. And as a special guest tonight, we have Deidre Holden, who is the Paulding County election supervisor, and she's going to talk to us tonight about SB 202. And without further ado, Deidre.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you to the party for allowing me to be here with you tonight. I just wanted to kind of talk about Senate Bill 202, which is the Election Integrity Act of 2021. It was signed into law in March of 2021 by Governor Kemp. And it's going to affect our voters a lot, and just basically wanted to go through some of those changes, and if there's any questions, I want to be able to field those questions. But one of the major changes you're going to see with Senate Bill 202 is the absentee voting process, the drop box process, the way we have to accept ballots now. So I'm just going to kind of jump right into that. The first thing that I want to talk about are the absentee ballot drop boxes that came about in 2020 because we were in basically a state of emergency because of COVID. I thought the absentee ballot drop boxes was a wonderful addition. It was 24/7 access to the ballot box. However, evidently some did not think that, but they have put a lot of restrictions on the drop box. They have to be inside now. They are only open during the time of advanced voting. So our advanced voting opens at 9, closes at 5. So does the drop box. The drop boxes will be closed on the Friday before Election Day, and that will be it. Anybody wanting to turn in their ballot up until 7 p.m. on election night, they will have to bring them into the election office. So those restrictions have kind of, caused a lot of controversy, a lot of concern, because those drop boxes, to me, and just my personal opinion, those were a very good thing for the voters, because if you wanted to bring your ballot at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning to the drop box, you can do that. But now you're going to physically have to go to an early voting location or the election office and bring your ballot in. So those are things that we need to be mindful of when we're talking to people that are going to vote by paper absentee ballot. Moving into paper absentee ballot, the whole application process has changed. There's a new absentee ballot application. It is now requiring you to provide your Georgia driver's license number or your state identification number. We are still going to be looking at those signatures, but those two identifying factors of your driver's license number or your state identification number are going to be key for that application to be processed. The state has really tightened up on people handling those applications, people applying for ballots that are not of relation to the actual applicant. The only people that can assist or apply for an absentee application for a family member is if that family member is disabled. They can't read or write the English language, they're disabled, or they are temporarily residing at another address due to maybe working out of town, maybe a student at college, and they are going to be looking at those things. But the old applications, if we get one of those, because I know people may have those, we will have to turn around and send them a new application because of the requirements that's on that application. The application is a two-sided application now. It is a lot more information that the voter will have to provide to us. So that is something that we need to get out to your party so you all can look at that. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and see that new application, but it is completely different than what people are accustomed to completing. Another thing with absentee is you can no longer request an absentee 180 days prior to the election. That time has been shortened. The quickest you can do that is 78 days prior to the election now. And then in requesting an absentee ballot, you can only do that up until 2 Fridays prior to the election. So that is that I think that was implemented in order for the election office to be able to process all of the ballot requests that come in to make sure they get out in a timely manner. The new absentee ballot absentee ballot envelope is different. It's going to cause a lot of confusion because of what has to be included. If you don't have the identifying information that you need to turn your ballot in, that is when you will have to provide a copy of the required and acceptable identification. There's a privacy flap now that has to be sealed, and it's just a lot of big changes when it comes to the absentee process. And I'm concerned with how this is going to affect our elderly voters because there is a lot to understand. But we're going to get through it. We're going to do as much PR as we can concerning this because I don't like confusion, and I want to make sure that our voters are very clear on these changes, this new envelope. So that's going to be, the major change. The way that the applications and the ballots are accepted back, if there's one thing that's not right, we have to send out that cure affidavit. That does have to come back to us signed by the voter, or their ballot won't count. And we know how important it is for every ballot to count. So a lot of education, and that's where we're going to really rely on the parties to help us get the word out, to educate the voters, because you have such a big voice in the community. So we're going to need, help with that. The process of making it easier, it has kind of gone out the window, but they're trying to do it for the security of the election, and I completely understand that. But it is going to be confusing for our voters, and we want to try to get ahead of that as much as we can. And y'all just excuse me for looking away. I'm looking at my notes so I can make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. One of the other things that we do see a lot of in the big election years are third parties sending out absentee application. Well, with the passing of this bill, those applications have to be exactly what the Secretary of State has put out, but it also has to have on that application that is not mailed from a government entity. That it is not a government document. So that is something that I know that the state election board will be looking at, because that creates a lot of confusion. There were a lot of people that had already voted, or they had already turned in their ballot and it had been accepted in 2020, and then they were getting other applications from the third parties saying you haven't voted or your vote didn't count, and that was causing a lot of confusion. So the authors of this bill felt that if an application was going to go out from anyone other than the Secretary of State's office or the election office, it needed to be notated on there that it was not coming from a government entity. So that is something that was a big change for those applications. When I'm looking through my notes, there's, on the application, it will have the acceptable forms of identification that they can turn in with their ballot. There's a whole list of those. It's just going to be, like I say, a matter of getting the information out, educating the voters. One thing that I do want to stress is we are seeing a lot of mail slowing down going through the postal service. So it's so important that those people who do vote by mail that can't, bring it to a drop box or bring it to the election office, that they make sure that they're putting that in the mail with enough time to get that ballot into us. It usually costs about 73 cents to mail a ballot in. I know the postage rates have gone up again, so it's gone from about 65 to 67 cents up to about 73 cents. So that's something the voters need to be made aware of. It's important that they do know that they have to get out there and get that ballot in time for it to be turned around and back to us by 7 p.m. on election night. There's going to be plenty of instructions that are included in the absentee ballot packet once the ballot is sent out to the voters. It's just so important that they read those instructions. And I'm the worst. I don't like to read instructions, but this is so serious. This is your vote that we're talking about. So it's so important that they do read all those instructions and they follow them accordingly. Another thing that the state is really cracking down on is who is handling these ballots. With the drop box implementation of it being inside, we are also required to have a person sit there beside that drop box. They are actually looking for people who are bringing in handfuls of ballots, people that, that really don't have authority to have those ballots. That's something they're looking for. Only your immediate family are the ones who are by law able to handle your ballot and bring it in and turn it in for you. So that is something that people need to be very mindful of. Let me scroll through here. One of the other issues that we dealt with the new Dominion voting system that was rolled out in 2019 was the security of people voting in person, because you all know that have seen the system, that ballot marking device is like a jumbotron. It's very large. People can see it. That is one thing that they really are really cracking down on, is making sure that no one can see who you're voting for. They want that privacy. Sometimes it's hard to make that feasible for the voter, but we're trying everything we can because it's no one's business who you vote for. And when you have a room and you have it full of those voting machines, we're having to be very creative in how we're going to set those up. So that is one of the things that they did put into Section 48 of the Senate bill, is how important it is with privacy at the scanner. When you're turning in your ballot, when you're putting it in the scanner, you're the only one to touch that ballot. A scanner host or any kind of person is not to touch your ballot. And if that's going on, it needs to be reported immediately. But just they're really cracking down on the security and the integrity of the way these elections are handled, because there were some counties that struggled during 2020. The way the hours are running now, they wanted consistency. That's one of the things that you would have one county that started voting at 7 a.m. for advanced voting. You had one that started at 8, one that started at 9. So they stepped back and said, hey, the voters are confused throughout the state. So now it's 9 to 5. And if a board opts to change those hours, they have to vote on it. I know Paulding decided that with adding the additional Saturday for early voting, that we are just going to stick with the 9 to 5 hours for early voting and the 2 Saturdays that we will be offering. But they want consistency, and it kind of affected us. It really did affect us when we were starting early voting this week. We're conducting municipal elections, and there was a federal holiday on Monday. So no one in the state, even though our office was open, no one was allowed to vote on Monday. We had to vote on Tuesday. And that really cut down on the confusion, because Some counties used to in the past would vote on that day, some were not. Some counties take that holiday, some don't. So we're just looking for more consistency, and I think that was one of the things that they were trying to achieve with that. We will continue with the early scanning process. Now, I don't think we're going to have to go through that with municipals, because as of today, I don't think we had voted 50 people for both municipalities. It's been a very slow turnout in the 4 days we've been doing, or 3 days we've been doing it. But in 2022, of course, we will go through that process. Another change that you're going to see with that is some of you with the party have come and joined us when we're doing the adjudication. You've served on a vote review panel, you've been an observer. One of the things that I really like in this is now that there will be a person assigned from the Democratic Party, one from the Republican Party, and then an election official, and you will serve as that duplication team. You will actually be doing the duplication of any ballots that have to be duplicated. So y'all, please keep that in mind, because when we ask you for volunteers to do that, it's very serious, and you do want to be represented in that. So I think that's going to be something that's really going to help us on our side, because it takes a lot, it takes away from the things that we're doing to have to stop and duplicate all those ballots. Plus, with you all doing it, you get to see firsthand and make sure that it is done correctly. So that is something that we will be calling on your party for. And there has to be 3 people on that team to make sure that the ballot that's being duplicated is done correctly. So we will start that process. It'll be 2 Mondays prior to the elections that we can start the tabulation process, and then of course the adjudication process. Another thing that has been, it's never been a controversial issue here in Paulding, but I'm assuming in some of the larger cities, the restrictions on the campaign activities of giving or offering to give money or gifts or food or anything like that, that's prohibited now from any campaign or organization. So they put a stop to that. It does allow for poll officers, which is what we're considered, to have like self-service water or anything like that, because you know when you're standing in line for a long time, you have children, they're thirsty, you know, it's hot, whatever. But from now on, nobody that's campaigning or any kind of organization can give away anything for free, and they surely can't sell it. A biggie with provisional voting, we have a big issue here at the Watson complex precinct on election day. Because this is also an early voting location, people think this is their election day precinct, and we have a lot of provisional ballots, and we have a lot of those out of precinct ballots. Well, with the passing of this Senate bill, if you are here and you are here before 5 o'clock and you cast an out of precinct provisional ballot because you don't want to go to your precinct, your vote will not count. After 5 o'clock, if someone comes in, they will have to sign an affidavit of why they're voting that out of precinct ballot, and it'll have to be reviewed by the Board of Elections. But that is a biggie, because most every time, unless a person was just registered in another county that voted out of precinct, their vote didn't count. But most all out of precinct ballots count. But now that is changing. So if it's before 5 o'clock and you vote out of precinct, your vote will not count. So that's one thing we really need to get the word out about. The cost, because of this change with the security paper, is going to impact us a lot with the passing of this bill, but it is what it is. And, we have to do what we have to do to make sure that everything, is going the way that it should. We are looking at a resolution and a bill that's going to be submitted to the legislative delegation when they go into session in January. They are our Georgia Election Officials Association, our Gavrio Association. We passed a resolution at our conference in August that because it's a redistricting year and we're going to have to be changing some lines on a local and state and federal level because of the census. And another thing is, they're wanting us not to be able to conduct elections when school is in session. So there's going to be a bill that's going to be dropped, changing the primary date to June and the runoff to July. So that keeps us out of the schools when the kids are there. So that would push qualifying to April. So that is something, now that's not, voted upon or anything yet. So that's something that's going to be dropped. It may pass, it may not, but I just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention so you'll know about that. But right now we're following the election schedule for 2022, and qualifying will be in March. Of course, the primary as it stands now will be in May, and then you have that August runoff. So, just some of the highlights for Senate Bill 202. I know that you told me about 30 minutes. So I'm going to open up for questions now. If anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Thank you so much, Deidre. That's so much information. I will let you know that, hang on, I have to get to the right screen. First of all, I just want to tell you that one comment we had was that Lynn said that she loved having the absentee ballot box by the courthouse. She has a very bad spine and cannot stand in line for a long time.
Yes.
So building on that, the drop boxes, like the drop box that was at the Watson Government Complex, is now going to be inside the building, correct?
Yes, that is what the law is requiring now. It has to be inside the building. There has to be security at that drop box the whole time that it's open. So it will be inside. Right now for the municipal election, we have it here in the office in the lobby. And then the other location during the big elections will be on the south side of the county at the Diane Wright Innovation Center, where we have that early voting location, because the drop boxes will only be available for early voting. So I know that that's an inconvenience. And that's what was that was what was concerning to me. Those disabled people, when you walk around this complex, by the time you get to our office, you're worn out. So it may be one of those things where that person does need to have their family member bring that ballot to us, or they need to put it in the mail and give it enough time to get here.
Okay. And then also, so there's only going to be the drop boxes at the two locations.
Yes, because the way the law is written now, that you have to have one at the election office. And for every 100,000 voters you have to have an additional one. So we have 125,000, a little bit over 125 voters as of yesterday. So that's going to require us to have two drop boxes. So we felt that the courthouse here where we are would serve as maybe the central location, but we have such a huge voting population on the south side of the county where Diane Wright Innovation Center is, that we would offer it there. Because when you drive this county from, the Douglas County line to the courthouse, that's a pretty good haul. So that's why we chose that location. We felt that that would be better served for our voters.
Okay. And they, and you have to have the minimum number, right? I think one of them was one per 100,000 or one for every early voting location.
Yes.
But it has to be the lesser of those two numbers, right?
That's right. Yes.
How do you think that that's going to affect, or do you think it's going to affect the early voting numbers in Paulding County?
I think you're still going to have those. We're still going to see a lot of absentee paper ballots. I do think that it's going to be very discouraging to the voters because the drop box is not sitting on the curb. It's not 24/7 available. And I do think those people that voted those paper ballots for convenience will now come and vote early. But I do think you have those people that they just look at the convenience of the paper ballot and they're still going to do it irregardless. But I think we'll probably see our in-person voting numbers go up.
Okay. Well, and hopefully the pandemic will be better by then too.
I know.
Tracy, did you have a question about IDs?
Yes. Hi, Deidre.
Hey.
I do have one question about the monitoring of the drop boxes. Who is going to be doing that?
Well, there are options. It can be a security guard, it can be a law enforcement officer, or it can be someone designated by the Board of Elections. We're probably going to designate someone from the Board of Elections to do that. It'll be somebody that's appointed as a poll worker. But we have actually talked about having 2 individuals there because, you know, you want to be able to have that security. You want to be able to say, you know, 2 people saying, hey, this person walked up with 10 ballots as opposed to 1. We just think it's probably going to be better to have 2 people there at that drop box at all times to monitor that. But it will be a person like a poll worker. That will be what their job is.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to ask you about voter IDs. Are people able to come to the elections office to obtain a voter ID?
Yes, we are here from 8 to 5 every day. If they want to obtain a Georgia voter ID card, they are welcome to. We're glad to give that to them.
Okay, and I just have one last question. What accommodations are being made for like elderly or disabled in line for voting?
Well, here at the government complex, we do have the entrance here that is just for the elderly and disabled, and it is used a lot. And they do like that because it's hard for them to stand in line. And even when we had the November election, they did have to stand in line, but we did, you know, offer seating for them and everything. But we will continue to do that. They also, you know, we don't like to ask their age, but, you know, if we see someone standing in line, we always want to bring them to the front of the line without saying, hey, you know, are you this age or whatever. But most people are pretty quick to say, hey, I'm the age, I get to come to the front of the line. And we still, you know, we're always going to allow that because, you know, I hate the fact that they had to stand in line for the November election, but we had such a huge turnout. But we did accommodate them with chairs. We let them come inside and sit and wait. So we always want to try to take care of them as much as we can.
Okay, thank you so much, Deidre.
You're welcome.
Another question is with the I just lost my train of thought. With the challenges that people can make to voter registration and voters' abilities to cast ballots, and with one person being able to put in as many challenges as they want, and then those having to be adjudicated by the local board, as I understand it, within a certain number of days, I think 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to work with Paulding County? And that's just concerning. And but I was afraid maybe I didn't understand it.
So you're talking about now there's no limit on how many people can or who can challenge a ballot and how many.
Right.
Basically how that is handled, because I always think about that situation on election day, because we always talk about, you know, you're standing in line and you see your neighbor that you've known has not lived here in 5 years and you want to challenge them. Well, it's election day. At that point, that voter would have to, you know, step out of line and say, hey, I know this guy, he's not lived here in 5 years. I want to challenge his right to vote. The way we would handle that now is, and the way we would have handled it in the past is they would vote a provisional ballot. They would not be able to cast a ballot and put it into the scanner. They would vote that provisional ballot, and then there would be a hearing with the Board of Elections, the person who's making the challenge and the voter who's being challenged. And that would have to be done very quickly because, you know, now with them moving our certification date up, we would have to have all of this taken care of by that Friday after the election. But they would not be allowed to vote. They would vote that provisional, and then it would be up to the board to decide if they're eligible or not eligible.
Sorry, I was muted again. And so, but one person could one person come in and do that with as many people? Like, I don't think that person should vote and that person should be voting and that person shouldn't be.
I don't think that's what the intention is. The purpose of that, and let me get back to my notes when it comes to the challenges. Give me just 1 second. Basically, what that's saying is you could only challenge, I think, up to two. Hold on, I want to make sure I'm telling you this right. Hold on just 1 second. I'm getting to my notes. So basically, okay, there's no limit on the challenges of voter registration. So if you want to come in here and you want to challenge, 100 people, you can do that. But I really don't think that someone, who are you really to say that this voter could be challenged? And the same thing with their eligibility. You can challenge as many people as you want to. And I think that's because it didn't happen here, but I think in other counties, in your larger metro counties, people are seeing people come out and vote that they probably felt that they didn't live in that county. And that's why, they're not limiting it anymore because, so many people know so many more people and they know what's going on in their neighborhoods and they know people and how they've moved in, they've moved out. And I guess that's why they did that. I don't know. We have never, as long as I've been doing this, to my recollection, I don't think we've ever had any kind of challenge like that during early voting or on election day. We've had candidate challenges, but I don't think we've ever had voter challenges like that. Now, we can challenge if we look at something that looks suspicious or we know that this person does not live here or we've received a phone call, the elections board can challenge at any given time. But there has to be solid concrete proof of that residency and that eligibility.
Okay. So one more quick question. I'm sorry. We're running just a few minutes behind to our candidates who are waiting in the wings. But what is the turnaround time for a voter ID?
Well, when you come up for a voter ID, you'll get a paper copy of it. And then police and sheriff's press is the ones who do the hard copies. They look like a driver's license. It's usually 7 to 10 days. The voter will get it in the mail.
Okay. Deidre, thank you so much for joining us. Can we ask you back to talk to us some more?
Absolutely.
Different aspects, or if people have other questions as we get, I know we're gearing up you're gearing up for the municipal election. And then, but then we have, right after that, we have to start looking toward the primaries and everything.
Yes.
So
yes.
We will, I'm sure, have more questions for you.
And if you have more questions from tonight, please put those in an email to me and I will answer them, and you can get those back to the party and to the ones that are on Facebook Live. I'd love to be able to answer those questions for you. But thank you for this opportunity to be with you all tonight and to be able to answer your questions. There's just so much information But I do appreciate this opportunity, and anytime you'd like for me to speak with all of you, I would be honored to, okay?
Well, thank you so very much for making time for us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Y'all enjoy the rest of your meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Deidre.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Next, we have two candidates who are speaking to us tonight. The first is State Representative Derek Jackson, who's running for Lieutenant Governor. And then after him, we'll hear from Marcus Flowers, who's running for the 14th Congressional District. But first, I'd like to throw it over to State Representative Derek Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and good evening, Andrea, and thank you, Tracy and Cindy and Ernest. And hello, Marcus. We wish you well on your endeavors to flip that seat. As I was listening to your questions, Andrea, it kept coming to mind about Senate Bill 202 and how egregious it was. This bill went from 2 pages to 98 pages. And I know I'm not here to speak about Senate Bill 202, but I can't help to say how egregious that bill is, especially to the men and women who are serving in uniform to defend a democracy that I am proud to say, as a retired naval officer after 22 years, fought and defend this democracy under both Republican and Democrat presidents. But never, ever before have we seen an assault on our democracy. And the reason why I'm running for lieutenant governor right now is very simple: to preserve that democracy. I truly believe that every citizen, every Georgian in the state of Georgia should have access to health care. The reason why we have Senate Bill 202 is because we have a lieutenant governor right now who, quite frankly, deferred and delegated his duties, did not preside over the Senate during the debate over Senate Bill 202. And so I just think it's very incredulous for him now. He's on his book tour saying how bad Senate Bill 202, where he was in a position to stop it as lieutenant governor. And that's one of the things, Andrea, that I continue to enlighten everyone as I crisscross Georgia from the metro area to Savannah, Brunswick, Jekyll Island, Macon, Columbus, so on and so forth, to explain to everyone what the role of the lieutenant governor is. And it's just very simple. The lieutenant governor need to be ready on day one to become the governor if need be, if something should happen to the governor. And with my 37 years of leadership and service, as I just shared with you all, I'm a retired naval officer. Then after I retired, I went into corporate America for 10 years. And now it's just been a blessing and an honor to serve as a state representative. I'm in my 3rd term, and I quickly realized that not only our democracy is at stake, Andrea, but the very essence of what we believe in: women's rights, civil rights. When you think about where we are in the intersection of our society, and when you have candidates like Marcus Flowers, who continue to fight the fight and explain why he needs to be, a Congress up in Congress, is because we need good leaders who have integrity, have experience. And let me just say this, Andrea, how important experience matters. We just watched an administration prior to Joe Biden. The previous administration were inept. We were on the brink of a war when somebody was occupying the Oval Office that was inexperienced. And so I'm just asking all Georgians to look at my track record, look at my 37 years of leadership and service to this country. Is something to be said about leadership, a leader with integrity, a leader with experience. And then last but not least, and I would love to answer any questions, because a lot of people say, Derek, why you? You served our country. You don't need these kind of headaches. And I always ask the rhetorical question, If not me, then who? We need us generally, collectively speaking, those with integrity to step up and say why Georgia needs to expand Medicaid. If there's nothing that we have not learned these last 18, 19 months, Andrea, is that all Georgians need access to great and good, affordable health care. And we need to take it one step beyond that, because Georgia's ranked number 43 in healthcare out of 50 states. But women's health is ranked number 47. And as a father of 4 daughters and 3 sons, yes, seven children, we got 5 of them are in college. We need to make sure that we have a future for our children and their children. We have one grandson, he's 2 years old. We need to make sure that we have a democracy to turn over to the next generation. See, because I always tell, as I go to meet and greets and do these Zooms, the election is not about the past. We should consider the past and how we got here, right? So I'm not discounting the past, but elections is about the future. Who do we want to be in Georgia? Where do we want to go? And what kind of vision and leadership that should be at the helm to help us get there, right? Well, we as a state, we did not do anything to help small businesses. Over 700,000 small businesses, when you think about it, Cindy, are in Georgia, but 1/3 of those businesses have closed their doors. No fault of their own. Nobody was expecting this pandemic, but it has happened. And so Georgians are looking for leaders to make sure that we have a government that's working for them, especially in the time where their government should be working for them. This is not about politics. This is about people. And you have to have someone that understands what it means to be a servant. And those who know how to be a servant, Andrea, are those who have served. And I'm the only candidate that served in the military. And I'm not saying that all leaders need to serve in the military. That's not what I'm advocating. But what I am saying, it demonstrates that our leadership has been tested and has been proven under pressure. And during my 10 years in corporate America, I understand what it means to be efficient and effective with our budget. There should be no reason why Georgia's budget is $27.2 billion, and we do not give women's health the proper priority as it should. We don't give small businesses the proper safety net like we give big companies, billions and billions of dollars. And I'm not saying anything negative about big companies. They have their role too, because all big companies, guess what? They started off small, Ernest. All big companies started off small. And so we have to make sure that we have a government that's working for the people and not the other way around. And I will yield for the balance of my time to answer any questions. You can go to voteDerrickJackson.org. That's vote Derrick, DERRICK, Jackson.org. That's my website. You can also use that same website to give donation, because there are 2 races that are underway. The race to earn everybody's vote, and a race to earn money to get the message out to make sure that we get the proper votes that we need to win during the primary next year.
Okay, thank you. And I was just now putting that in the comments on Facebook so that will be there for you.
Thank you.
Cindy, did you have a question for Representative Jackson?
I do, but I sent it out and I'm not sure what it was anymore. But as I was listening to you, I was wondering, because you said you had been serving for a while, what are you most proud of that you have accomplished so far in your time in the legislature?
That's an excellent question, Cindy, and thank you for that question. The thing that I'm most proud of is not the big successes I've had. They are the small ones. They're the ones where I get a phone call of a mother who their son was wrong to help them get in the college of their choice. Their son was responsible to respond to a state college to get in, but teenagers, they don't monitor their emails, and their son had lost their Hope Scholarship. But I made the mother called me and said, listen, the school sent the email to my son and not to me and the father. And what can you do? I simply just picked up the phone, made a phone call and say, listen, this Hope Scholarship, this young man was due this Hope Scholarship. And unfortunately, you all rescinded the Hope Scholarship because he did not respond in a timely manner. Most young people do not monitor their emails. What can we do to mitigate this situation? And needless to say, that young man is about to graduate from that state school on a Hope Scholarship. And that may be very small to some families, but it was very big to this family because this son was going to be the first college educated child for their family. Another success, Cindy, was simply when where I had the opportunity to connect the right people for a woman's own business that didn't know how to navigate our Secretary of State website, that wanted to get a business license. It was cumbersome. And again, being able to pick up the phone to help mitigate these kind of situations. And now there are some big successes I've had in terms of legislation and things of that nature. I think that's expected of a legislator, but the two examples that I just shared with you is not in our job description, but it made the most significant impact for that family to make sure that a child got in a Hope college through the use of their Hope Scholarship. And these two young women who wanted to start a woman's business, but did not quite understand the intricacy and the bureaucracy of our government, and being able to connect them with the right individuals in our government. And I have countless other stories in helping Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and going to various schools and talking to future leaders of tomorrow. Countless examples. Those are the examples that I always love to share. And as the last 18 months, another role that I found myself speaking in, Cindy, that I never thought that was part of my job description, was eulogizing family members, those family members that were that succumbed to this coronavirus. And when families asked me to come speak on behalf of their loved one, I felt honored. But at the same time, because there were so many deaths that could have been avoided if we would have had the right leadership that was making the right decision in our state, that could have been avoided. And so I have countless stories and thank yous that I receive from my constituents on being there when they needed me most. And those are the kind of stories that you won't find in the AJC or on the news, but it was comforting to me because I made a difference in the families that needed their government to step up the most.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we send we have a couple other questions, but we have one more person that is going to be speaking to us, Marcus Flowers. Can we send you, if we get any other questions, and like I said, we do have a couple more I see, can we send those to you and have you answer them, and then we'll post them on our Facebook?
Absolutely. I know you already have my email, but just for those who are on Facebook Live, my email address is voteDerrickJackson@gmail.com. I try to simplify things as a good naval officer would. And so that's vote Derrick, DERRICK Jackson, voteDerrickJackson@gmail.com. That's my email. And again, my website is votederrickjackson.org. That's vote DERRICK people always ask, Derek, why do you spell Derek? Because there are 8 different ways to spell Derek. And so I don't want someone to go through the trouble of finding my first name, which is the only Derek that's in the dictionary.
Thank you again so much. I have both your email address and your campaign website on the Facebook pages. And then just one comment that Arlene Grease made was that absolutely many deaths could have been avoided if Kemp had promoted masks when it would have made a difference, which I think we can all on this call agree with. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're welcome to stay on if you want and listen to our next candidate. Or if you have other things to do, we totally understand. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, our next speaker is a candidate for 14th Congressional District. It's Marcus Flowers. Marcus, we're so glad to have you with us tonight.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here with you guys tonight. And before I get started, let me just apologize up front if I cough. I'm dealing with some sinus issues and I've been under the weather for the last several days. I know it's going around and I've been unfortunate to have these sinus problems right now. It's generally my time of the year. I usually get a good one once every 2 years. So it's that year now. But let me introduce myself. I am Marcus Flowers, the Army veteran running for Congress against Marjorie Taylor Greene here in Georgia's 14th Congressional District. A little bit about me. I was born in Troy, Alabama, the birthplace of John Lewis. At 11 years old, I moved into a children's home in Talladega, Alabama, right next door to this district, because my parents couldn't afford to support me. I grew up in an impoverished home. At 18, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's what I've been doing for the last 27 years on humanitarian efforts in Sudan, peacekeeping missions in the Balkans, and a decade in and out of combat zones in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've served our nation on 4 continents as a soldier, a defense contractor, and a government official. Put simply, America has been my life. I've had the honor and privilege of serving with some truly great American heroes. And I've negotiated on behalf of the United States with Afghan and Iraqi warlords. I've been to Camp Bucca, the birthplace of ISIS, and I've looked into the eyes of our enemies, and I've seen the damage done by extremism, disinformation, and radicalization. And I won't stand by and watch it happen here. For most of my life, I considered myself apolitical or nonpartisan because I was serving our country for almost 3 decades overseas under multiple administrations. Being bound by the Hatch Act, I was not able to be outwardly political. But during the social reckoning our country was facing during the majority of the prior administration, I saw hate speech and division become all too commonplace in our political discourse. And I was sickened by the racial divides that continue to make this country less than it can be. I could clearly see that we were headed down a dark and dangerous path. And then January 6th happened. I watched police officers being beaten with American flags as a Confederate battle flag was paraded through our Capitol rotunda. At this point, it became mission critical for me. The very next day, I called my supervisor and I resigned my post as a government official to run for Congress. And I've been working every day to build a campaign strong enough to bring back integrity, honor, decency to this seat, which is why our campaign has been endorsed by a group of Americans whose values and accomplishments inspire me, like Ambassador Andy Young, a Georgia stalwart in the civil rights movement, U.S. Senator Max Cleland, a disabled veteran like myself and someone who served this country honorably and has sacrificed so much, Senator Jen Jordan, a friend of mine who's truly remarkable, a truly remarkable Georgia state senator, and who's currently running to be our state's Attorney General. Congressman Eric Swalwell as well. He knows a little bit about getting things done and working with people across the aisle. His is an example I look to follow in Congress. We've also been joined by several national groups like Vote Vets, No Dems Left Behind, Collective PAC, and the Congressional Black Caucus PAC. But the endorsements that I value the most are the ones that come from the over 100,000 grassroots donors all over the country who stepped up to join this movement. Thanks to their support, we've raised $1.3 million in the last quarter, and we now have over $1 million cash on hand. We'll use those hard-earned American dollars to make an unprecedented investment in this district. We will engage, connect with, and persuade voters by meeting them where they are, at their doors, over the phones, and in their communities. We'll have the tough conversations necessary to win this campaign. We will be the first ever Democratic campaign to run ads on the Atlanta television market and the Chattanooga television markets. We'll show this district, this state, and the country that if we organize, we can win. I'm an eternal optimist, guys, but I'm not naive. This will be an uphill battle. Georgia's 14th congressional district is facing multiple challenges, and no matter our political leanings, these issues affect us all. The rising cost of living, access to healthcare and education, rural broadband is a huge issue here. Finding jobs that pay a wage that allow us to support our families, and safety in our communities are the kinds of problems that impact all of us daily. These are exactly the kind of problems that I'm running for Congress to help fix. I believe that this district should have a voice in Washington, D.C. that is working each and every day to deliver on these issues, not someone whose only job is apparently sowing hate and division. If you believe that disinformation and radicalism is dangerous, if you believe that service and honor still matter in this country, and if you think that our country and our democracy is worth saving, I need your help. There's only one way that we're going to be able to do this and accomplish this mission, and that's together. So with that, I say thank you, and please go to marcusforgeorgia.com and join our campaign, because we need all the help we can get here. And with that, I'll take any questions you guys have.
Okay. We have a couple of questions. I know, Cindy, do you want to start with your question? You're muted, but I think you had one about committees.
I'm
Hey, Cindy.
sorry. Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I had the opportunity to listen to you for a few minutes before your previous Zoom that you did. So your voice is holding up pretty well, all in all.
Thank you.
So we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not sitting on any committees currently, and that's, of course, to our great detriment that we're not being represented at all in any of these committees. So I was wondering if you'd thought about what kind of committees you would serve in or would try to get on, and what you wanted to do in those committees.
Well, I have thought about that. And, one of the things that, everyone says is they want to be on Ways and Means. That's one of the big ones. But chances of a freshman congressman getting on that one, probably slim. So I would like to keep it to things that I'm familiar with, that I've worked on: foreign affairs, the intelligence community, also, veterans affairs. That's a very deeply personal issue for me. As a disabled veteran, and as you said, you saw our last thing. That's, our veterans affairs issues and the VA hospitals and veterans getting in claims for disabilities. We need to work on streamlining that process and make it easier for veterans to get the health care that they deserve. And also to help people understand the true costs associated with war, because I don't think a lot of Americans understand that. It's not just about tanks and airplanes and bullets and things of that nature. There's a human cost to having spent 2 decades at war. There's a human cost for our Vietnam veterans who are just now getting the care that they deserve and are still having to fight to get all of their issues taken care of, especially in our rural communities, getting to places where they can, be seen by specialists and doctors of that nature. So those are definitely some of the issues that I would like to be on. Foreign services, because I have a lot of experience working with our mission partners in the UK, Germany, Italy, the Balkans, Iraq and Afghanistan. So those are, many of the issues in subcommittees that I would love to sit on, where I think I could bring a lot to the table there, because it falls back and relies on the experience that I've had over a 27-year career.
Thank you. That sounds awesome.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that you, I lost it for a second, so I had to retrieve it. I know that you said that you're going to do, you're going to have TV ads in both the Chattanooga and Atlanta markets.
Yes, ma'am.
What are some of the other things that you're doing to make sure that you get, that we get Democrats out to vote?
Oh, we're going to, as you can see here below, Molly, who's my deputy campaign manager, but she's also my field organizer. We are going to have an army of field reps out. We're going to knock on 100,000 doors. That's our goal. Knocking on 100,000 doors. We have a huge mail program that's starting to ramp up now. I don't know if any of you already started receiving some of the mail, but we're going to reach out to the voters. I'm going to be out there myself, going out, sitting down, talking with people, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike. We're going to reach out to everyone. We're going to work with other organizations to get out the vote, to get people registered. If there's anything we can do to help, the county chairs in that effort, please reach out to us and let us know how we can help in that effort. Like I said, we're going to make a substantial investment in this district. And a big part of that is getting people interested, getting that name recognition out there. We're going to have to match Marjorie Taylor Greene. We all saw her come up on, the television when she jumped in the primary from Georgia 6, and came in with $1.5 million and just bought the market. Well, she's not going to be alone in that aspect this time. We will match her ad for ad if we have to, mail piece for mail piece if we have to. So.
Okay. I don't see any questions on Facebook right now, but I know, Cindy, that you had another question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, this is obviously a very emotional race for us in the district. And I was wondering if you had talked amongst the other candidates and if there was any agreement that you guys would all work together, no matter who gets the nomination, to make sure she gets defeated.
Oh, yes. I think I made that pledge. If I'm not the candidate, which I'm pretty sure I will be, if I'm not the candidate, I will work with whoever the candidate is and put forth 100% effort behind their candidacy, as I would hope that they would do the same for me.
Right.
So I'm going to back whoever the candidate is 100%. That investment, whether it's for me or someone else, it still stays the same.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Let me just look on one of our other Facebook. We have 2 different Facebook things going, so I'm just trying to see. Anybody else have any questions? For Mr. Flowers? I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Representative Jackson and Deidre Holden, the election supervisor. If we have any more questions, can we send those to you and then we will post them on Facebook?
Oh, absolutely. And Molly will drop our information into the chat box. Please just send them here and we will get back to you as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that we will have other opportunities to see you. I missed you at the Dining with Dems.
Oh, you know,
Me too.
I heard that people really enjoyed meeting you there, and it was
I enjoyed being there.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to us getting on the other side of this pandemic and, you know, just having a chance to all be together again. I know so many people are longing for that. I'm longing for that, you know, to get out and spend time with people. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I look forward to sitting down and talking with all of you.
Well, thank you so very much. And I will be in touch with Molly about other opportunities that we have.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Love to join you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. Have a good night.
Night. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.